Taylor Rooks is a graduate of the University of Illinois and currently works for the Big Ten Network as a sports journalist and broadcaster. She can be seen on BTN Live, Women's Sports Reports, and also covers sideline reports for various games as a freelance reporter for CBS Sports. I spent the day with Taylor to catch a small glimpse of what her life is like as a sports journalist. Taylor's day began with a production meeting for BTN Live with her co-broadcasters for that day, Dave Revson and Howard Griffith, along with the show's producer. Here the producer presented the rundown and the talents offered their opinions, briefly touching on the topic points they might discuss. Following the meeting, Taylor prepared her materials she needed for her segments of the show. Throughout the day, Taylor and I hung out with many of her very talented co-workers. Taylor also took time to give me a tour of the studio and the set in between shows, describing to me the ins and outs of all things sports broadcasting at the Big Ten Network. She then made her way to hair and makeup before getting dressed for the show. 5 o'clock rolled around and it was time for the airing of BTN Live with Dave, Howard, and Taylor. That day's episode was all football talk as there were many key games to be played the upcoming weekend. Prior to the broadcast, I sat down with Taylor to learn even more about what she does and how she got to where she is today.
I did a lot of different things when I was at U of I. Mainly it was interning. It was taking advantage of the opportunities that I knew were presented in Champaign to me. You know, you're at a Big Ten school, so there's sports. Sports are a big part of the culture there at Illinois, so I made sure I interned with Scout, Fox Sports, PGA Tour, Comcast Sportsnet Chicago. I did a lot of things, or took advantage of a lot of the resources that were there on campus. You can do things like BTN Student U, just so you get that experience of being on camera while you're in college, and it really does prepare you for when you are out of college and you have the control room, you're in the studio, you're doing different interviews and things like that. So there's tons of things to do at U of I to prepare you. No, it was a lot of working in college mixed with a little bit of luck and an opportunity at the right time. I always say if I didn't graduate the year that I graduated, I wouldn't have the job. Like I said, I did a lot of interning when I was in college, and one of the things I did was BTN Student U. So they liked a lot of the sideline reports I did for that, and they asked me to do an actual game. So I did a spring game for them when I was a junior, I believe, and then I did another spring game for them when I was a senior. So this was actually on the air, and one of the executive producers saw it and said, we want to see if you can do more. So they started to give me more games. And then it's actually funny, it was the summer of 2014, so I just graduated, and it's May. I don't have a job yet. I'm thinking about just moving back home. My agent's like, if you go back home, we'll find you a job. It's okay. August rolls around. I still don't have a job, but I was at a concert all the way in Canada. I'm driving back into the States from Canada, and my phone rings, and it's my boss I have now, and he's like, hey, we want to know if you want to come on to the Big Ten Network this upcoming season. And I was about to move back home in 3 days. So he tells me that, sends the agent my contract, I sign it, and now I'm here. So like I said, it was a lot of just knowing that when I was put into an opportunity to show that I could do it, and then it just worked out. They needed somebody, and they said they were looking at me to do it, and now I'm here, year 2. Rewards of my career, I think, once again, it's just the storytelling. You see all these athletes on the field, but the best parts about them are just things we don't know. There's a player, Jehu Chesson, who's at Michigan. He just became an American citizen a month ago. He had to leave Africa due to a lot of war that was going on there. And then you have somebody like Carl Nassib, who his dad passed away the morning of a football game, but he still played the game for his dad. And I think that's rewarding, just being able to hear the stories they have that make them real people. I think sometimes when you see people on the football field or the basketball court, you forget that they're still doing things when they're not there. And I think that's the most rewarding thing about being a journalist, especially in college sports, is these student athletes are are really just fantastic people. I think that there's a lot of challenges to being a woman in general, but it's definitely hard to be a woman in a sports reporter just because it's such a male-dominated field, and you always have to feel like you have to prove that you should be there, that you know just as much, that you've worked as hard, and that's something that you struggle with every day. But I think that being a woman has so many advantages too. You can offer a unique perspective to certain things, and even though there are times where it's like, okay, I just want to be seen as a journalist first and a woman second, you just have to have a thick skin and say, if I keep doing all the things I need to be doing, that will come in time. My advice for aspiring sports journalists would be to just not say no to anything, and to remember that you are in college to get better at the thing that you want to do when you are out of college. I think so many times people think you graduate and you get a job, and that's not true. You have to get that experience when you're there. I mean, it's about getting your hands dirty, learning how to do it, interning, setting up your own blog and doing interviews. You have to show that you offer something that no other person who's trying to be a journalist can do. That's the key, because anyone can get in front of a camera and talk, but it's like, why do I want you to get in front of my camera and talk? So just be sure to remember that when you're in school, that's what you need to be focusing on. It's not always about the partying and the going out with your friends. That stuff's going to be temporary. The friendships will last forever, but all of that, it's very small compared to the bigger goal.